don't wait for an application. Don't wait for a job vacancy. Reach out to people in the industry you want to work in. Find the right connection and message them. I can tell you more people have made an impact that way by just asking than by sending a CV that goes into a pile of CVs. Make yourself stand out. Welcome to the VGRT podcast. You will notice that I am not Alexander Fernandez. I am not your usual host. I am a guest host for this episode this week. My name is Layla Amir and I work with Streamline Media Group. And I'm joined today by three lovely guests also from Streamline Media Group as we have a little chat about how to start a career in video games, how to switch careers, or how to just make the most out of your career, whatever step of the way you're on. So we've got Anais, Rai, and Gaby, but I'm going to hand over to them as they introduce themselves first. Anais?
Sure. Thank you, Layla. Yes, hello, everybody. My name is Anais Jansen-Fernandez. I work for Streamline since 2012. I'm the head of legal. I manage a team of 4 with me, including me, 4 attorneys located in different regions. We are in charge of all the corporate stuff, HR, commercial agreements, intellectual property management, insurances, you name it. We take care of all of that. My story in a nutshell, I am a Dutch attorney. I went to law school in Amsterdam. I then started working for Streamline in 2012 as an in-house counsel. Before that, I was working for a law firm that represented Streamline, and Streamline was one of my accounts. Then I moved from New York to Vegas, from Vegas to Malaysia, and now since 2020, again, I'm in Las Vegas with Streamline. This is my story in a nutshell.
Nice. We're going to delve into that a little bit later, but I'm going to pass on to Rai.
Hey, thank you, Layla. I'm Rai Sewgobind. I am managing the sales department. I have a team of 3. I really like and enjoy to see the team grow and train them. I am currently based in the Netherlands, so that is Streamline Media Group from Europe. And yeah, everything else about the gaming industry. I mean, that will be discussed in a bit, but that's my nutshell.
Thanks, Rai. And finally, Gaby.
Thank you, Layla. Well, my name is Gabriela Ebanks. I'm part of the HR department here at Streamline Media Group. Pretty much, I am in charge of anything and everything HR. I am located in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I've pretty much been here all my life. So that's my intro.
Thank you, Gaby. And as I mentioned, I'm Layla. I'll be your guest host this week as we dive into careers in video games and all of our journeys and tips and tricks that we think we'll be able to share with you to help you on your way. I'm with the marketing team in the UK. So again, with Rai in Europe, managing a team of 5 who are based in Malaysia. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. So let's get straight to the questions. Let's hear about everybody's experience here. At one point, we've obviously all been hired to a company, whether it was Streamline or another one. And we are all now hiring managers. So I think your perspectives will be really great to hear from both sides. The first question is, how did you get into this role in the industry? So we're thinking about whether you studied for this role or whether you were self-taught or sort of learned on the job, those kind of things. So Anais, I'll kick to you first because I know that you've obviously trained very hard to become a lawyer and had to go through schooling. But what was the switch to video games for you?
Thank you, Layla. I've spoken about this in a previous episode, but I will tell it again for the audience that is listening to this podcast. So I am an attorney. I went to law school and I was specialized in corporate law. I worked for a corporate law firm in Amsterdam, and Streamline was one of our clients. So I was dealing with corporate affairs. So a lot of that has to do with, like transfer of shares, reorganizations, stuff like that. Then when I moved to New York, I was completing some of that stuff with Streamline. And then I rolled into, I guess, a new role within Streamline. I became the head of legal and business, or director of business and legal. I don't even remember my title very well, but all I know is that from having that corporate background, I could do many of the things that Streamline was setting up, like, for example, the entity in Malaysia. But then I learned the business, and the business, a big chunk of the business is the commercial aspect of it. So it's how we sell our services. So I learned that firsthand from Alexander. We were on calls with clients, and we were able to go through an entire agreement and put the entire transaction together. Then I moved to Kuala Lumpur, and in Kuala Lumpur, I learned the operations. Not so I had the background, the corporate background, the commercial background, and then the operations background. So I ran an office. So we hired more people. We had to manage the entire thing. I learned other things, not just the operations, but also the craft, the technology behind the work we do. I learned more about that. And then last year, I went to law school again, and that's where I decided to specialize in law and technology. So I obtained an LLM specialized in law and technology at Berkeley, where I learned, I was very focused on courses like video game law, cybersecurity, copyrights, patents. I had a very good deep dive into all the components of intellectual property, and so this is it. This is the path. I started from corporate to commercial, from commercial to kind of operational, from operational to intellectual property. So here we are. It is not a defined path. It is whatever you want it to be. And this was my opportunity, and I took it. So it was not that I was thinking about it. I didn't think, hey, one day I will wake up and I will be a video game lawyer. Yes, I went to law school and I wanted to be a lawyer. That's it. But I didn't think that this was even possible. So yes, it is possible. You can do it. And there are many ways to achieve that.
Thanks, Anais. I love that story. And I think it's really where it is. I'm glad that you picked up on the point that it's not necessarily where you thought you were going to be. And obviously every journey takes you on whatever road it feels like it wants to take you on. And you chose on the way different ways to make it work for you. Gaby, I'm going to head over to you because I know that you weren't in video games before joining with Streamline Media Group, and obviously as HR, I'm wondering whether does that matter what industry you came from before, and what different tips and tricks have you had to learn yourself in order to adapt your role to video games and tech industry?
Okay, thank you, Layla. So I think for me, my experience is quite different from Anais's. I did not come from the video game industry. What I did previously to this was I was in human services, and I managed a caseload for people where I helped them find resources and pretty much just help them, on a daily, basis on, personal things. So I helped them with assisting with government funding, resources, things like that, just to help them get their life on track. And I think bringing that skill and that knowledge that I had from my previous position to human resources was incredible, because at the end of the day, I think human resources is basically just human, like managing humans, right? So I pretty much I went to school for human resources, for human services. I got my bachelor's in science of human services. And I think with that, I have been able to bring the skills of helping people um, in just helping them with their professional journey here at Streamline Media Group.
Have you found that there are any differences in your approach now that you're in video games and tech, or actually, as you mentioned, because it's humans, it's kind of the same across the industries?
No, it's definitely different. Where before I used to help with basic necessities or basic needs for humans, here at Streamline, I'm actually helping people in their professional journey. So it is a bit different, but similar in some ways.
And then, right, I mean, you did want to get into games. Your background was very, very targeted towards video games. So how did your expectations match up to the reality when you finally joined the industry?
Good question. Good question for someone who is already interested in video games, isn't it? How can I keep this short?
No, we like I want a story. I want to hear the truth behind it. I bet you got some good anecdotes for this one too.
Oh boy. No, okay. So as you already said, for someone who is already interested in video games, I mean, I was at that time, I was already doing something very creative. And it was just a matter of, okay, where do I want to express me being creative? What type of creativeness do I want to create? And I always connected it with video games because it's a hobby. It started as a hobby and I enjoyed it that much. So I always thought the creative side of me going to combine it with video games, and then I have the perfect job, right? The perfect job that I want to wake up for. Every time when my alarm will go off, I wake up happy, and it wouldn't matter what time. And that, I guess you can say, when I was 19 years old, at that moment, you would make another decision. Okay, am I going to study now for, at that time I think it's a course that is called game design course. I applied for it. I did not get accepted, but I was very close. So because of that, I stayed, I stayed motivated. I'm going to brush up my skills. I'm going to do it better. And then I'm going to reapply for next year. Everything went a little bit different because somehow I was still 19 and somehow I ended up creating and publishing a first magazine related to video games. I was still combining my creative side with video games, just in a different way. It was a different platform, different outlet. And that doing that alone already opened up a lot of seeing things, how it worked within the gaming industry, being able to talk to creators, designers, artists, voice actors, even composers. And that really inspired me to actually be able to say, I want to stay in the gaming industry, which eventually by doing that, I mean, you're going to start, I started then, it's my own company, which means you're going to be doing everything at some point. You're doing marketing, you're doing sales, you're doing all of that. And that led me to getting to know Streamline Studios at that time. And that was back in 2008. I kept in touch, saw Streamline appearing at events where I would also be at. And then at some point in 2016, a decision was made for my own career. And at this moment, I'm doing sales at Streamline Media Group. And it's not that, I'm still within the video games industry, just doing something else, again, maybe a little bit more focused. Although it's not connecting the creative side, it's not that, but at least I know what it takes to do this part of the business, which is sales. And that enables me to say, you really need a personality. You really need a personality to do this. It's not something that you necessarily learn, because the learning parts is just a way of understanding the company's business model, right? That is what's going to be different at every job. It's more about you, how you are as a person. Can you connect? Can you start a conversation? That kind of thing. And then, I mean, I like it so far. It's not that I don't like it at all, but you learn a lot through, this is really for me a job that I have learned by doing it. And yeah, it's interesting.
Oh no, that's really great to hear that. Obviously, from that creative background, you've been able to use your past experience and into the role that you're in now, and then still, obviously, every day learn something new. And I think that's the one thing I take away from this industry compared to other jobs I've had and other industries I've worked in the past, is that the continuous learning is no joke. I learn more than one thing new every single day. Whether that's me actively going out to look for something new to learn, to make sure I understand something new that's happening, because the industry is just changing at such a fast pace, or I just learn from my peers. All the people that we work with teach us something new every day. And I think that's generally something else that you mentioned, right, about this industry, is that not many people understand what it really takes to make a video game, and how many people behind the scenes actually are beavering away to make this thing come out and be successful or not successful, just to get it out the door. How many people are actually behind the scenes? And I think if that was more open, the door to entering the industry would become more open as well, because people would realize how many different aspects and careers they could get into. I'm thinking about the about film industry, for example. Everybody, whether you've worked in film or not, everybody knows how many people make a film, right? One, because the credits go on forever. But two, somebody knows someone who works in film. They talk about it. It's very open. The process behind what it takes, how much money, is always very open as well. Whereas video games, even though it's actually a very similar process, is not so open. So I don't know who wants to jump in on that kind of question here, but when you started at the company or started at your first video game studio, did you think that they're just going to be a bunch of teenagers sitting around playing video games all day?
No, I do want to say something about it, because I think at some point, well, maybe not necessarily playing video games, but I think at that age, already knowing, you're still young, you are the gamer, you are also the consumer, and then knowing what it takes to actually develop that, knowing all the different departments who need to communicate to get that out there, the marketing that's also behind it. I think maybe I speak for myself, maybe I was more thinking about mainly all the artists and designers, and that's it. They're just working together. They have teamwork. They have nice ideas. They brainstorm, and then they get this awesome video game out there. They have somebody on story, somebody on music, and that's it. And then you become a part of the gaming industry, and then you're like, okay, you can either, have that tight team and that's what you produce and can create, which is also, by the way, it can be very amazing what can be accomplished with a team that is so tight. Versus we need to have multiple departments and companies agreeing to this project. Otherwise, we won't succeed. Yeah. You have them in all sizes.
Yeah, that's very true. Anais, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in. Yeah, I think that we have to see the games industry or a game studio from two angles. And one of them, I like the comparison, Layla, to film, because that's true. It's very similar to that. We're talking about content production where a lot of people are involved. And it's massive. And we know about that because we grew up watching movies, right? Not necessarily playing games, or at least we've not been exposed to how games actually are made. But now going back to what Rai was saying, the actual skill is one thing. So what goes within, that team of people that has from the concept all the way to completion, from actually drawing a character to making that character dance and move. But then I want to talk about the other part of that business. We're talking about business. This is a business like any other one. I can run a bakery. I need insurance. I need staff. I need to pay people. I run a game studio. I have to do the same. I have to deal with a lot of things that any other business also needs to deal with. And this is how I met Streamline, right? I was at a law firm where Streamline needed to have some restructuring work done, which I did. And now I've dealt with many things at Streamline. So from insurance to, the actual, think about the lease. That the games, when we got the office in Kuala Lumpur, that was a prime location. We got the lease. It was such a big deal. And it was a long negotiation with the landlord. So all that also is part of a game studio, not just the actual skill, the actual art, but also the practical part of it. We are a business that needs a management. We have shareholders. We have an HR team that is required to staff. We have an operations team that runs the actual office. Whether you have the right soap in it, whether the filters are clean, all that is necessary. Oh, and one funny thing, that at our office in KL, there are actually sections where the lamps have been removed because the artists don't like light. And there was a time where I was moved to one of those aisles. I'm like, man, what am I doing here? I need my light. So I was turning on the lights, but there were certain bulbs that were not there. So you couldn't turn it on. But so I got my light. I think it was maybe a separate lamp or something. All I know is I ended up seeing artists wearing sunglasses inside. I'm like, this is just crazy. So one day I went to this specific artist and I asked him, and he's like, I can't work with all that light. So I spoke with our HR manager, Lalita, and I asked her, what's this about? Yeah, they don't like light. So all that.
That's definitely feeding into the caveman. The cave of artists.
Right. So you need that. And that's also part of a game studio. So not just the art, but also the little things that are part of a business of, what makes your staff happy. And that staff is happy with the coffee, Milo, whatever is there in that kitchen. Plus, well, I am an artist. I cannot have light. Well, I'm an attorney. I need to have my light. I need so I was moved to another part of the office. So yeah, in a nutshell, this is what I wanted to say. You are not just an artist or an engineer. You also have an entire organization with an infrastructure supporting you.
Yeah, I think that's super important to bring up because I know that there are billions of gamers around the world. We know that for a fact. And they might want to get into the industry and work in the industry that they love as a consumer, but have no art or engineering skills and think, well, how the hell am I going to do this? And yeah, you just answered it. In order to make these games, they need that infrastructure around them. And that means HR department, operations department, marketing, sales, every other aspect, production management even. You don't need to be an artist to run a production team. There are so many avenues into the industry, into any production industry, where you don't have to go to art school. You don't have to know about programming, which is great because I can barely turn my computer on.
That's very true. I was just going to add on to that. I think that's very true, especially if someone does want to get into the industry. They don't necessarily have to be an artist or a developer, because there is a lot of different, positions available in administration, in finance, in all the other things that require just to run a business. So if they do want to get their foot in the door, they can start in any of those positions, kind of just to because once you get into the industry, you actually start to see how huge it is. All the different aspects, the positions, the people that require just to do, create games, or, the technology that's required out there. So I think it's important to kind of keep that in mind that, if you do want to get into the industry, you don't have to be creative or, an artist. You can, come in any of those other positions that are available.
Yes, I also want to add to that. I was thinking that also it is not necessary to have a job opening on the website to be able to be hired. I have in my team, for example, I have a full-time attorney who went to school with me at Berkeley. He sent me a message. It's like, hey, are you hiring in your team? Okay, I guess I could, right? So that opened up a door and we had a conversation and he's now part of my team. So that's the way he came in. Then we have JJ, who said, hey, I won't be able to work full time because I have to go back to Berkeley to finish my LLM program in the summer, but can I work with you as an intern? So these were positions that I had not posted anywhere, but they made it possible by just asking. So this is also another thing at Streamline. I know that there are people that have sent open applications saying, hey, this is my skill. Do I fit in? And it's been successful.
That's such a good point. If you don't ask, you don't get. And that really doesn't matter what kind of job you're trying to get. You have to find ways around people's websites and job portals. If you really want a job, you got to keep knocking on that door and keep trying to get it. Make connections with people. LinkedIn is a great portal for that. Make connections with people, literal ones, not just LinkedIn connections. Send a message, network with people. I think for video games in particular, the events that are coming up now that most of them are coming back into real life. Go and talk. Find the studios that you like. Hang out at their booth or book a meeting with them and pick their brains, ask them questions. And I know from our side, we're happy to do that because we want to share as much of it knowledge that we've gathered with as many people as possible and make sure that we keep investing in opening up the doors of the games industry so that it doesn't feel so closed and blocked off to people. So what ways do you think we can continue to do that? So whether you're starting out in the industry or looking for a career change, how do we think generally the games industry can be more open about what we do?
So I think one of the things that we could do is basically just kind of bring awareness, because I think half the time, even me personally, I didn't know what the game industry was. And I, like many people, thought, well, the game industry, yeah, it is a bunch of people just playing video games and it's all fun and games and things like that. But in actuality, it's not. It's kind of what Anais had brought up, what you had brought up, Layla, is that it is bigger than just the video games and the art. So I think bringing awareness to people and letting them know that there's different aspects of the gaming industry, and that they can somehow, some way fit into something within the game industry. They don't necessarily have to be an artist or a creative person. And I'm one of those people, because I'm not creative, I'm not an artist, but I do bring a skill and knowledge to the HR department that and I am within the game industry. So I think that's important to keep in mind.
I think that's a really great valid point to bring up, and something else that you've mentioned, and actually Anais and Rai, I think you've both mentioned as well, is this word fit, finding the right fit. And I think from all of the experience you've just discussed, it's not necessarily about what you studied in terms of what company or studio or is going to be the best fit for you. It's about finding that culture fit is the most important thing. And that's going to be the thing that Rai said, I want to get out of bed every day because I want to work with these people. I want to work with this type of company. How do you find that? How do you find the right culture fit for you, not just a skill set fit for your career?
I think it starts with yourself. If you define what your values are and what you stand for, then that's a filter right there. Then you know what type of company you're going after. You go after that, you see if it fits, then you stay. If it doesn't fit, then you leave. For example, here Streamline, I think that one of the things that I can see in most of the people, hard work is one of them. We run different time zones. I know many of us wake up early, go to bed late. Sometimes we have to work on weekends, whether my week, for example, starts on Sunday evening so that I can roll with the KL team and be ahead of it. But at the same time, I have the flexibility that on Friday, Europe is already celebrating the weekend. Kuala Lumpur is sleeping, so I don't have to work till late. So I always stop a little bit after lunch. So yeah, I think if you find your passion, you're gonna go after that place and then see if it fits. Here at Streamline, we are hard workers. We believe that we have to learn, continuously improve. And yeah, if you're that type of person, this is where you belong.
Yeah, definitely want to add to that because, of course, you also want to make sure that your hard work is being valued and appreciated. And I think if that is there constantly, then of course we don't mind to be 2 more hours longer to get something done because it matches with another time zone. And I think that is definitely what we're also like. A culture fit is one thing. The other thing is that you are being heard when you talk, when you speak, when you have something to say. That is, yeah, if that is something that you can definitely see and it's being valued, all these components, and that just makes it the perfect place for you. And that's exactly what I would say is that if one of those things, if that does not match with what you're looking for, then either you have people who will listen to you, to what you have to say and making changes, or that is already for you like a flag, as in, no, this is not going to work for me because this is a company that's not going to change. This is a company that is following very different values than I want to follow as well. So then and that's kind of what I also was saying in like a previous episode. There are certain things that are just not, not worth your time and effort. and you best to just spend it somewhere where it is valued. And that is the place that you help being a success, rather than staying somewhere and actually indirectly supporting the success the company has.
So true. I want to do like preach, preach. I agree with all of that so much. Yeah, there's no point working hard for someone who does not care about you in any aspect of life, whether it's your job or relationship, whatever it is. It's not worth it. And I think maybe the younger generation than we are getting a bit more wise to that. And hopefully are, and then maybe our generation needs to hear it a little bit more. Just we're not doing anyone any favors by sticking around somewhere where you're not happy. And I think especially in the creative industries, people can have this notion that, well, you have to suffer for your art, otherwise you're not an artist, right? I mean, when I was in film and TV, that was, if I wasn't getting anywhere and I had no money, and I would just think, well, this is, part of the course, right? You have to just suffer, otherwise it'll make you a better artist. And then I got a real job and I was like, oh, I don't have to suffer. I can actually earn a decent wage, do something that I do like doing, and be happy at the end of the day.
Well, you have to pay the price sometimes. You have to work hard. Going back to what Rai was saying, I think it's also a boomerang effect. Certainly here at Streamline, it doesn't mean that, I'm working 24/7, but I know that what I'm doing, if my output is good, I'm appreciated. So I can take an afternoon off and say, I'm sorry, guys, I'm off to whatever, yoga, I'm doing my nails and I'm out. And no one is going to come and tell me, hey, but you're not working, you're not behind your computer, you're not responding within seconds to my Teams message. Well, maybe not right now, but usually, yeah. So that's also that you give and you receive. You're valued in that way. If you are able to be a responsible coworker, when someone asks you, I think as a team, it's important that we understand that we're not on our own. We need each other to work and to make this company work. So if I need something from someone, I really do. If not, I wouldn't ask. So if I don't get it from that person, I fail, and we fail as a company. So that's the type of approach I like to highlight here. This is collaboration. This is teamwork. We don't do it on our own. I'm not a superstar on my own, but I think we can be superstars together.
Very good point. I hope that one, another preach to that one. If I had.
No, thank you. We need a sound effect for the podcast. The clapping.
Clapping.
So obviously, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we're all ladies who work in the video games industry. All of us. Has that affected your journey, do you think, into are there any hiccups along the way that you found because of your gender?
I think only from a personal level. I know Gaby wants to say something because Gaby is also a mom. I called Gaby yesterday because I needed to ask her something, and I didn't know she was driving to pick up her kids, and I was also picking up my kid. So I'm saying this to say to talk about the fact that you have a personal life, and as a woman, there is a lot expected from you. So I always joke in my house, I run a laundry service, a coaching service, a daycare, a law firm.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. You wake up in the morning and I have to help my daughter get ready to go to school. I have to review her homework, help her with her test. Then, oh yeah, I have to make breakfast and lunch and then bring her to school. It's a lot. And then by the time I'm at my desk, I'm like, I'm exhausted. No, I have to work, right? So I think that's a little bit of the struggle, but I don't know if it is a general thing. It is, at least with me, it's a lot. Being a mom, you have to do quite a lot, and then you have to take care of your home, and everybody needs to be fed. The house has to be clean, the fridge fully stocked, right? But you still have your job, so you're like in this role, in this dual role. That's a little bit of a challenge as a woman, I think.
Yeah, I agree, Anais, and I think that's the beauty of working here at Streamline, that we do have the ability and the flexibility to do those things. So when we have to work hard, we work hard. And then knowing that we have that flexibility to, take the kids to school, pick them up, prepare some lunch or some dinner, being able to do those things. Within the industry, there is no other job or position out there where, you have to commute maybe an hour or two away. We're all here working remotely. We have the ability to say, okay, I need to, use the restroom, or I'm going to take a quick, 10-minute breather just to, refocus and get my energy back. So I think, it's something that should be treasured. I definitely feel honored and am happy that I have that opportunity to, be pretty much a full-time mom and, work full-time. So I definitely don't take that for granted at all.
Yeah, and even with an office, I that flexibility has always been. I remember in Kuala Lumpur when I was at the office, sometimes I would show up with my daughter because I had a meeting and I had to get her to school and I had a meeting. I'm like, okay, I have to do one thing or the other. So she will come with me, stay outside and find a friend. Everybody has toys here. Walk around.
That's true.
So
That's very true of a video game studio. Or everybody had a toy of some sort on their desk. Good swag.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that flexibility is now here because we work remote, but I don't think that would even change. I'm sure if we ever go back to an office here in Vegas, if we need to jump out to get our kids, that'll be possible. If I remember actually when we set up shop here the first time, we had an office and the gym was downstairs and would actually go all together to the gym at the same time. So the office was quiet. So that's no, I don't think there will be any restrictions in that regard.
I think that goes back to what you were all of you saying actually, in that it's that the right culture fit for you will help with your balancing. I know there is no thing as work-life balance, it's just a myth, but in terms of finding a place that will you can work hard and feel valued, then that's how you can then manage your personal life at the same time in a healthy way. Because yeah, as exactly as you said, if I need to go and pick up my kid, I just do it. Like, I don't need to ask permission to live my life. And for your career, that shouldn't be something that has to battle with each other. So finding the right place that trusts you to live your life and do the work.
Right. I think after COVID, working remotely has brought, of course, many challenges, but it's been great because we have seen the human side of everybody, right? I remember mm, in my first years of my legal career, my office was I had like a different life. You would show up at the office, very well dressed in your high heels and completely available to represent the firm you work for. And your problems were at home. Your personal life was not at your desk with you. That was not part of it. And I think now with COVID, I mean, you tell me, my kids come and interrupt meetings and not just internal meetings. I had the day after Thanksgiving, I had a contract that I needed to close. and the client's attorney was not in the US. So we planned a call. The attorney wanted to meet me on Thanksgiving Day. I apologized and said, I'm sorry, but it's Turkey Day. I won't be able to attend. But the day after, I am willing to. So I was on the call, and my daughter came in screaming. She had an emergency that was not a real emergency, right? I'm like, I'm on a call. This is a call. You can't come in. I had to excuse myself and then tell her, I don't even remember, but get out of the room. I am on a serious call and I can't have interruptions. So then I had to go back, and I felt like the attorney was really flexible and he understood. It's like, I have kids too. I understand. And on a usual day, they will be running around, but that day was not a day off in his country. So that shows your human side, and it has brought us as a holistic being to be part of an organization, because now people know that, yes, I have kids, I go to the gym, these are my struggles, and this is part of me. I work here with my entire baggage.
Right. Yeah, that's true for everyone, right? It doesn't matter whether you have children or not. It's everything has become much more transparent. I mean, you can literally see where I live right now because everyone knows a lot more personal information about their colleagues, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's as you said, it's opening up the humanity behind that person sat at a desk who you used to walk past every now and then. It's like, well, now you literally are in their living rooms or bedrooms and talking to them at odd hours of the day, all towards this common goal, whatever it may be. And that's definitely helped.
Absolutely. Because now our families kind of understand what we do, right?
Right. That's a big thing. I don't know if the kids understand it, but the other guys. My kid, Rafa enjoys video calls. He thinks it's his time to shine. Showtime. Every time. Need to get some clothes on that kid. What do you wish you knew before you took this role in the games industry?
I think for me, one of the things that I would say I wish I knew was, again, a little more about the industry. Everyone just thinks, again, the video games, just video games, but it's a lot bigger than that. Right now, even just thinking about the future, metaverse, the AI, all the things that are, changing the world, technology in everything. I mean, think about, in the healthcare industry, you think about the military. I mean, technology is everywhere. And I think having a little more knowledge on that would have definitely, not that it's necessary, but I think it would have given me a different perspective of what this industry really entails.
Right. Anything that you would tell your younger self?
Oh, I think eventually in the end, it is for someone who is already interested in the video games industry, is already going after anything and everything that's out there. It's probably what is out there that could help me out. So if it is more about knowing how video games are being developed, right? How artists and designers are talking about their work, how other departments are talking about how they're managing community, all that kind of, I think that's great to have now. Like, I can literally see it happening more, because normally you would always have maybe that little, like, I don't know if you know, or have seen this, but every time when you would maybe get like a collector's edition of a video game, there would always be like a separate part that would always tell you a little bit more behind the scenes, or you get an art book with it. And that would be that will be that piece of information that you could grab just because you got a collector's edition. And then you're like, okay, are we now getting there to normalize it that I don't want to necessarily get a collector's edition, pay more to know more about the team, to know more about the developer, how they went through the process and things like that. And I think the more you're aware of that, and I would say both for creative and business, like know both sides, right? Because otherwise you will only think that, oh, creative, oh, that's all there is. It's right. And then the business side would always think, okay, it's only admin that I will see every day. Well, you could also talk to the artists and designers, and those are personalities as well, still people. And I think that's pretty much what I would. I mean, if that is just a matter of maybe not on my end, but having that information available as accessible, then that would have been great. Yeah, but we are getting better at it. I mean, with YouTube, all those type of documentaries that are being created, platforms, interviews being done with companies, developers, artists being put in the spotlight. Yeah.
Want to add something? I actually don't know what I should have known. And I think that that's a good thing because that keeps you curious. And that's something that is a good thing, to have because curiosity diminishes as you age, right? Kids are curious about everything. You see them peeking, touching, asking questions. As we grow older, we don't necessarily ask more questions. But when you land in an industry where you don't know everything, you have to be on the lookout to understand. And not only you don't know everything, you won't ever know everything because it is an evolving industry, right? So every time there is a new technology, a new thing, you have to keep up with that. So it's not necessarily bad not knowing what to expect or not knowing everything because it will keep you curious.
I concur. I completely agree. I think the curiosity is, particularly in this industry, absolutely necessary. I've got only 2 more questions left. One is very targeted towards people who just want to know, how do I get a job in this industry? Give me hard facts. So I wanted to know a few tips from each of you about, as hiring managers, so with your hiring manager head on, what would be your tips for an application, so the resume? What would be an interview tip? And what would be your tip for when they actually get the job? I'll start. So for applications, for me on application side, I'll jump back to something Anais said earlier. It's like, don't wait for an application. Don't wait for a job vacancy. Reach out to people in the industry you want to work in. Find the right connection and message them. I can tell you more people have made an impact that way by just asking than by sending a CV that goes into a pile of CVs. So make yourself stand out in any way you can, legal ways that you can. And then for interviews, I know that they're stressful. I think one thing I remembered is that being on the other side of the table for an interview, that you just need to relax. Like, it's just a conversation, and it's really, you don't need to read anybody who you're interviewing with. You don't need to read them their resume. They've already read it. That's why you're in the room. Once you've got to an interview stage, they want to know who you are. And that's where they're trying to figure out the culture fit. Do your values match each other's? And then when you start, I would say, hit the ground running. And again, with what Anais just said, ask questions. No one is expecting you to know everything on your first day, even your first month, even your third month. Ask people questions. Nothing is a stupid question. It's stupid if you don't ask. That's my 3.
I have some more to add. Be yourself when you come for an interview. of course, everybody's going to be nervous, or most people are nervous during an interview because you're facing someone you usually don't know. But don't make up a story. Don't lie. Just tell your narrative. I went to school. I did this. This is what I like. And this is where I'm going to be. Most of the questions, from what I remember, I haven't done interviews recently, but back in the day, I used to do a lot when I was in Kuala Lumpur. There were a lot of questions, obviously, about the skills, but that was not my area. Because if we wanted to hire an artist, I wouldn't have a clue, right? But in terms of personality, you would know, hey, do you have goals in your life? What's on your bucket list on a personal level? Where do you want to be in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years from now? That is a way of getting to know someone. At least you know how determined someone is, or if someone is a free spirit, because there's no right or wrong, right? It's not that you have to have your life, all mapped out. It's impossible, and follow it. There is obviously flexibility about that, but at least it gives a sense of who you are. Like if you say, hey, I want to climb Mount Everest, well, that is a personality right there, right? So then I think at least for any administration job like HR, marketing, finance, legal, operations, you would actually need a good resume and a cover letter. You need to write in a cover letter, you write your story. Who are you? What have you done in your professional life? Can you highlight something, an achievement? Can you talk about any future plans that you have? If you're an artist, most likely your portfolio has to be very, very neat. You have to, make it shine and present it to the artistic team that is interviewing you. Once hired, the first thing, be passionate. Follow your passion, have that energy, keep that energy. Because if you don't keep that flame going, at some point you're not going to be able to do your job anymore. You have to have what Rai was saying, a reason to wake up for, think in the morning, hey, this is what I'm doing today. I like my job, and this is what I'm doing today. And I'm doing it with a lot of passion. So be passionate about the work you do. And if you lose that passion, maybe it's time to switch to something else. Another thing is in general, but I think for the job that we do, we require a lot of VUCA tolerance. And I'm not talking here specifically about anything, but the past 2 years have been rough worldwide. We have faced volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and adversity. And we need to be able to thrive in those circumstances. And that affects us on a company level, on a personal level. We have to be able to survive, and keep our mental health in check. Another concept that we believe in is Kaizen. This is a Japanese concept of continuous improvement. It was one of the companies that I know it follows this concept is Toyota. In their assembly line, they have this system of all the checks that they go through, and they are open about failures that need to be redressed in an early stage, right? So I believe in that too. Kaizen is a continuous improvement, is having that, being humble enough to understand that you're a human being and that you also make mistakes. That if you have a new team member that may bring a fresh idea that might not be the same idea as you had, you have to be open to accept that idea and shine as a team, right? So I think opening up to Kaizen, the continuous improvement, is something that you have to keep while working, not just a Streamline, in general. Continuous improvement, that's what I believe in.
I think you two pretty much summed it up. I mean, it's Yeah, exactly that, right? It's with your application. I mean, why bother lying? Because if you're going to be showing up for the interview and it's not going to be you, then there's something is off. I mean, the hiring managers will know. I have been doing it for so long, right? They'll know something is off. So what can you do? It will come down to be yourself. And I think don't even bother thinking if you are a personality they're looking for, because you wouldn't know. And you might be the person they are looking for, even if you have your quirks or your weirdness about you. But if they are hearing and seeing what they see as a culture fit, I mean, then the only thing you can do is pretty much just tell them what you're passionate about, what you love doing, what your strength, weaknesses are. I mean, that also lets them know that you can talk about it, because when you're on the job, you'll still want to be able to talk about everything that is maybe bothering you, because eventually, what I like to also tell my team is that I would not be able to be a better manager if they don't tell me things. Like if they would, something is wrong and they don't tell me, then I cannot be a better manager to fix that problem or to be able to sit down with them and talk about it. So definitely things like speaking up, and of course, just keep being passionate. I mean, if there is something, maybe work life that balance isn't there anymore, but I can at least avoid someone from being burned out, or at least listen to what is going on, maybe on personal side of things. And that's something that I would also tell any candidate, anyone who is trying to get into it doesn't matter in what industry, but knowing that we're now maybe working more remotely or having a hybrid version or whatsoever, it applies to everywhere, that you want to make sure that you can talk to your manager if something is wrong, that they're listening to you and they can help you. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
And I think on my end, just to add on to what everyone else has mentioned here, because I think those are all valid points. Those are all great ideas as far as how a candidate can go ahead and present themselves. You know, one of the things that Layla did mention was putting yourself out there, being honest, and doing something a little bit different, right? Because your resume, your CV can get lost under the pile of 200-300 candidates that are applying for that same position. So, putting a cover letter, expressing, who they are, what they're about, what their goals are, as far as, trying to come into the company, that kind of makes them stand out a little bit. So I think it's important to just be yourself, present your best self, but be honest. And I think that will show, when hiring managers are looking through the resumes and the CVs, and even during the interview time. If their personality comes out during interview and they're just honest about who they are, and what they want to achieve, then I think that would definitely assist with, getting into the industry.
Thank you very much. I only have one more question for you. Well, one, celebrating that we're all women in the games industry. We've achieved something. And what do we how do we think we can empower and educate more women to join us? Because the figures are quite low. I think it's 22% across the whole industry are women in games and tech. We obviously all value a woman's voice in the room, for many reasons. But how do we think that we can, ourselves here and to anybody listening, how can we encourage more ladies to get into the industry?
I think using this platform is a prime example of that. All of us here are women. We're showcasing different aspects of the industry. We have legal, we have HR, we have sales, we have marketing. All four of us are, in the industry, and we're all filling different positions within the industry. So I think this is actually a prime example of bringing awareness to other women that it isn't just male oriented. There are women in games. There are lots, especially even in the company within Streamline Media Group, we have lots of females, artists, in finance, in legal, in all departments. So I think bringing awareness and letting other women know, yes, this is not just male dominated. Women are in games also. So I think that's one way to bring that awareness to other women.
Well, you know what? We are definitely doing what we can. And what we can do is do more, keep doing. I think that's the core of it, because eventually I can't force women to join an industry they don't want to be in, or they don't want to be in the spotlight. Um, um, but what we definitely can change are the companies who maybe have their agenda of how many, what the ratio should be, or whatever they have set up as, we need more women on the board or less. I mean, those are the places that will have to change. It's not us. Because I think I mean, it's definitely where it actually goes for everyone. You have your passion, you're going after it, you're finding the companies you want to work at. There are plenty of them, by the way, who are definitely open. They just look at you, not a gender. They want you to be happy at the place, right? So I think more places like that. And I mean, we're kind of already doing things like when let's say, if I'm going to an event, there are ladies talking, they want to have advice or anything like that. Of course, I'm going to talk. Of course, I'm going to give them advice as much as I can. And then it's up to them. Then it is completely up to them, how eager they stay, how passionate they stay, how much they really want to have this job, because it's the position, if it is at a company who is opening their doors to everyone, you are competing against everyone, every gender. So it goes back to you, just being you. How badly do you want this job? And that's pretty much it. And we do what we can do, right? If we keep doing this and having more companies open up their doors and not look at weird rules, ratio rules, then we should be fine.
I agree with you both. It's awareness, but across the board, not just women. We can empower women by inspiring, for example, as we're on this podcast. And if women are listening, they will hear our stories and maybe somehow get inspired one way or the other, knowing that we have the same or at least similar struggles. But also the awareness that you can bring to a company where you can pinpoint, hey, don't you think that you have too many guys in your management team? Maybe you should diversify that team. So it's that awareness too. Like, I don't think people necessarily do it on purpose. It is sometimes just the way it happens. And then you end up being in a room with a lot of guys calling the shots because it just didn't get the opportunity to maybe talk to a woman that could actually help to call the shots. So it's from both angles. It's that awareness that we need to bring to teams and to women out there that should know, hey, there are other people out there that are doing what they're meant to do. be professionals and women at the same time.
I think the industry is generally getting a lot better at that. I know, I mean, even just from my LinkedIn feed, I'm seeing a lot more women in the industry talking out, making their faces known. And, I know we don't all want to put our faces out there, but it helps just for the next person to see that, exactly as you just said, there are people like me already there. And that, doesn't go for just what gender you are. It goes for, whatever ethnicity you are across the board. As you said, it's diversifying. And if you're able to see yourself somewhere through someone else, gives you that boost of confidence that you can do it as well. So from our side, as Rai said, we're all doing it. We all need to do more. It's always the way. But I'd like to say thank you to each of you for spending time with me today, letting me be your guest host on the VGRT. We've had some really good insights from each of you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Layla.
Very welcome. So that is it. That's the end of our VGRT episode today. Thank you for listening. You can reach each of us on LinkedIn if there's anything you want to chat about. We are hiring. Probably should mention that. So, of course, you can have a look on our careers page. But I won't tell you now, but if you were listening, you would have got some tips and tricks on how to reach out to us directly throughout the episode and what we're really looking for. You can catch all the episodes of VGRT on our website, videogamesrealtalk.com. We're available on Spotify and Apple. And you can also catch our social media on Twitter at VG_RealTalk. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, follow, comment, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.